The Shiva Trilogy, it consists of 3 books, The Immortals of Meluha, The Secret of the Nagas, and The Oath of the Vaiputras. It began as a pure philosophical thesis, philosophy on what is evil. I got the idea for that around 9-10 years ago, and that got converted into an adventure to convey the philosophy. So if I have to write an adventure on a philosophy on evil, then the best hero, naturally, is the destroyer of evil himself, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the destroyer of evil in the Hindu pantheon. And having said that, he is of course a very interesting god to write about as well. He's a very exciting god to write about. He is, in a sense, a god of the rebels. He's a classic anti-elitist god. He treats his wife with respect. He's obsessed by her. He's a brilliant dancer. He's a fierce warrior. He smokes marijuana. So he is, in a sense, a very cool god. But the primary reason was I was writing an adventure to convey a philosophy on evil. That was the genesis of the Shiva Trilogy. It happened some 9-10 years ago. My family and I, we were watching TV and it was a History Channel program, and we discovered something very interesting. I'm sure you're aware that for Indians, gods are called devas and demons are called asuras, right? Most Indians or people of Indian origin, we all know that. What many of us don't know is that for the ancient Persians, not the Islamic Persians, the Zoroastrian Persians, gods were called ahuras and demons were called daivas. Okay, it's the exact opposite of the Indian pantheon. To the extent that characters who were gods who people who were gods in the Hindu pantheon, like for example Indra, he's the king of the gods in the Hindu pantheon. He's the king of the devas. He is apparently a demon in the Zoroastrian Persian pantheon. And which gave rise to an interesting discussion in our family that if the ancient Indians and the ancient Persians had met, we'd probably be calling each other evil, because my god is your demon, your god is my demon, so then you must be evil. So the obvious question that arises is, who would be right? Would the Indians be right or would the Persians be right? The obvious answer is neither. They're just two different ways of life. Neither of them are evil. So if neither of them are evil, then what is evil? Okay? Evil is something, the obvious differences. And an answer occurred to me to that question of what is evil. And that was the genesis. That was the philosophy that I'm trying to convey. I always say it's fiction, all right? It's not, I can't claim that it's the truth. I don't know what the truth is. It's fiction based on history and mythology, okay? But on the surface, it's an adventure, all right? It's the adventure of a man called Shiva, who's a coarse, rustic tribal man from Mount Kailash in Tibet, and he comes down to India, which is a far more advanced civilization. And it's about the battles that he fights, his adventure, his love story with a Meluhan princess called Sati, and how he actually fulfills his mission of destroying evil. Suryavanshis think the Chandravanshis are evil and the Chandravanshis think the Suryavanshis are evil. And at the end of book 1, you realize actually neither of them are evil. They're just they're just they just represent two different ways of life, and evil is something that exists beyond them. It's larger than them. I'm inspired by this thought that God isn't an entity which who exists far above us and beyond our imagination. I am inspired by this thought that God actually lives within us, within every single human being, and those whom we worship as gods are those who discovered the God within. Many of us don't realize that we are gods, right? And I'm inspired by this thought. So I see Shiva in the Shiva Trilogy as a man who discovers the God within, and I find that thought inspiring. So he's a man who becomes a god. There are many things which inspire me, and yes, and the Shiva Trilogy is certainly has certainly got aspects of the ideal society that I would like to see. I'm a lover of knowledge, but look, all of us have different parts to us. I deeply love my family, and I'm deeply in love with Lord Shiva. So that is my bhakti for me. Having just sitting on knowledge and doing nothing with it makes no sense. Karma means action, that you have to do things, but just sitting on knowledge means nothing. You should write a book and then promote it. Only then does it actually have an impact. So it should be a mixture of all, of gyan, karma, and bhakti. One of the fallacies I think that must be addressed is this thing that that religious instruction should never be questioned, that you're just supposed to accept it blindly. That again is nonsense. If God didn't want us to use our brain, he wouldn't have given us a brain, right? He's blessed us with a brain because we are supposed to use it. We are supposed to ask questions, and things don't make sense to us, then, well, I mean, then oppose it, right? And this is there in the scriptures as well. If you read the Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna tells us very clearly that I have given you knowledge most profound. Now your task is to think about it and then do what you think is right, right? So which means even God is telling us directly that if what he's telling us doesn't make sense to us, don't follow it, right? You're supposed to question, and I think that's what even Shiva is trying to imbibe and live. That philosophy in the Shiva Trilogy, that you're supposed to question things and accept them only if it makes sense to you. You can't just accept things as as oh, it's written in religious text, so I cannot question it. That doesn't prove that you're a religious person. It just proves that you're a stupid person. A religious person should question everything, accept it only if it makes sense, find interpretations that make sense to you. They're working on the script right now, and Karan Johar is one of the biggest filmmakers in India, and he has contracted the Indian language movie rights for The Immortals of Melua, with an option on the two sequels, and there's a separate discussion on for the international rights with American producers. There's obviously no such drink today. I believe it did exist earlier, and if you read articles in magazines like the Scientific American, you will actually find that anti-aging medicines are not in the realm of science fiction anymore. It will happen in our lifetime. Maybe another 10-15 years, our scientists will find medicines which can dramatically increase our lifespans. And I'm not talking about living as an old vegetable. I'm talking about a youthful, virile, healthy life. But living much longer. And there are various routes that are being discussed. One is antioxidants. One is gene repair. There are various possible routes which are being researched upon. but it will happen. That I believe is it's a matter of time. The only question that we'll have to answer is, okay, what are we going to do with the extra 50, 100 years that all of us will be blessed with?